All right. Well, good morning. Today is Tuesday, June 8th. And this is the regular meeting of the Kings County Board of Supervisors. Due to issues arising from COVID-19, the board is using a teleconferencing format for today's meeting. We are all participating via the World Wide Web. If you'd like to make a public comment today, please make sure you are identified by name in the WebEx system. For those interested in commenting during unscheduled appearances, please use the raise your hand feature and wait to be recognized. Each speaker will be allowed up to 2 minutes for public comment. Each vote today will be a verbal or voice vote so that members of the public can hear how each board member has voted. After we have a motion and a second regarding each item we're taking up today, we will be doing a roll call vote by district. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Joe Neves,
Here.
Richard Valley,
Here.
Doug Verboon,
Here.
Craig Peterson,
Here.
Richard Fagundes.
Here. Very good. We have 5 in attendance this morning. So with that, we will move to the invocation and Pastor Brian Kleinhammer from Kingdom Culture 2.0. Brian, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Good morning.
Morning.
Let us bow our heads. Father God, we have gratitude for what you've done and how you've been with us during this whole pandemic. Father God, you've got us through. And as these hard times start to change and eventually come to a close, Lord, we know you're going to be with us as things start to open up. We know that you're going to help guide us to do so safely. And Father God, we know that you are going to be blessing not just individuals, but this entire county with a higher level of prosperity to help make up for that which is lost. And Father God, for this, we just have gratitude. Bless these proceedings and everyone who is a part of it. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. If you would all please join me in the flags. Ready? Salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
One
nation under God, for all.
All right, at this time, we'll move to item 2, which is unscheduled appearances. Any person may directly address the board at this time on any item on the agenda or any other items of interest to the public that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. 2 minutes are allowed for each item. And first up, we have our DA, Keith Fagundes.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the opportunity. I wanted to take this time to mention a recent commendation that our group of our investigators received for helping a multi-agency task force that apprehended several firearms and illegal assault weapons that were being manufactured over in Tulare County, and in a joint operation with Tulare County, the NCIS, Naval Crime Investigation Services, and the target team out of Tulare County. Senior Investigator Darren Kramer, Investigator Chris Jackson, Brian Toppin, James Sizemore, Troy Holsenbeck, Trish Cezino, and Jeremy Ricks all participated in the ongoing operation. They were successful. The suspect was safely apprehended, and numerous weapons were received and taken into evidence. So I just wanted to mention to the board that our investigations team, although I could give commendations and they receive accolades routinely, this is one that stands out as, given the current climate of the gun violence that's going on, as well as the current climate in social media. I just wanted to point out that our peace officers and the police officers in our department, as well as every other department in the county, certainly always rise above and beyond. And I wanted to acknowledge them today. And that's it.
Very good. Thank you. Next up, we have our IT Director, John Devlin.
Yes, good morning, Chairman. I'd like to protest the budget for IT. What we had asked for was 2 extra help positions in the central services, and it took some convincing of admin to let us have those positions, and they instead set a full-time position, but that they were going to take away our account clerk, which is not acceptable. Thanks.
Q.
I do not have anyone else with their hand raised or written comments.
Our CEO, Ms. Campbell, has asked for some time.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Good morning, board. I wanted to let the board know that I'm requesting to pull item Roman numeral 4, item B3 from the consent agenda. Requesting to remove that from the consent agenda today, and it'll be brought back at a further date. And then I also wanted to bring to the board and the public's attention that Mr. Greg Gatska, this will be his last public board meeting today with Kings County. I wanted to thank him for all of his service and give your board also an opportunity to thank him as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Comments? None? All right.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to, if I get a quick second.
Yeah, please stay close to the mic. We can't hear you very well, so
Okay, sorry about that.
no worries.
I would just like to thank Mr. Gatska for all his years of service. I believe it was close to 25 years, if not more than that, and the efforts that he has shown over the last year, in my opinion, sets the standard for a department head. His integrity, his motivation, his leadership over in that department, and quite frankly extends to other departments and other department heads. And he's always sent a positive vibe around the county. That's a lot of talent that is leaving the county. That's a lot of memory and knowledge, experience that's leaving the county. But I look forward in his next row. I wish him many blessings, and I can't express enough gratitude thanking him for a loyal service to the County of Kings. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, thank you, Supervisor. Yeah, and I would also echo those comments. You know, I think my first experience here at the county was formal, was the last general plan update that we did, and you know, the professionalism, the thoroughness of projects that go through his department have always been done and done to you know, to a very high extent. And you know, the second thing is that he's worked hard to you know, make sure that others in his office have been trained well to step in and backfill. And again, we want to thank him for his years of service here and wish him well in his future endeavors and his family as well. You know, it was a big commitment to drive every day here, and we all appreciate that. So thank you, Greg. And with that, no other further public comments? Right, seeing none, we will move to approval of the minutes from the May 25th, 2021 regular meeting. Board, what's your pleasure?
Nevs moves. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Joe Nevs,
Yes.
Richard Valley, Doug Verboon,
Yes.
Craig Peterson,
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
Okay, we have 5 in favor, motion carries. At this time, we'll move to item 4, which is a consent calendar. And as a reminder, item B3 has been removed from the consent calendar. And with that, I would shift that to the board for action.
Mr. Chair, Nevs moves to adopt the consent calendar as amended.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. And Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Joe Nevs,
Yes.
Richard Valley,
Aye.
Doug Verboon,
Yes.
Craig Peterson,
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
Okay, we have 5 in favor, motion carries. We will now move to item 5, which is regular agenda items, and it starts with the county council office.
I don't know that that's on because I think you'll be sharing a microphone. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Diane, can you step to the other podium, please? Thank you.
Looking for a hot mic.
I wasn't prepared. I understand Catherine was not prepared and it was a little bit last minute. I had brought my audio at the last minute went out on my computer. So I wanted to be able to see you face to face and I wanted you to be able to see me. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I'm here to request the board approve an agreement to retain the public relations firm Tripepi Smith for redistricting public outreach. I am also requesting the board approve the use of Maptitude online redistricting tool, which is included as an optional element in the county's existing contract with NDC. Both of these actions would support the county's redistricting public outreach efforts. Collectively, they would require a $41,675 budget change. Under the new law, public outreach is a significant component of the redistricting process. It requires a robust and good faith effort to seek public input from the community, including from the county's language minority and underrepresented populations. The requirements include, in part, outreach to media organizations, good government, civil rights, civic engagement, and groups or organizations, live translation at public hearings, and receipt of maps and testimony from the public, both in writing and electronically. After a recent review of the county's in-house resources and in consultation with NDC, the county's redistricting consultant, County Council has identified the need to retain a communications and public relations firm to manage the county's redistricting public outreach. County Council recommends and the county's purchasing manager has approved the sole source procurement of Tripepi Smith for the required services. Tripepi Smith has been working in local government communications for over 10 years on issues that include district formation and redistricting programs. The firm is uniquely qualified to provide the county with public outreach services. It is the only public relations firm County Council has been able to identify that focuses on districting and redistricting public outreach as part of its core business. Tripepi Smith consultants are educated in the legal requirements of redistricting public outreach and are able to provide the robust outreach efforts that are necessary to comply with the state and federal law during the redistricting process. Because Tripepi Smith regularly partners with NDC on districting and redistricting projects, it has established routine practices and lines of communication with NDC that will benefit the county by facilitating effective coordination and efficient workflow during what is anticipated to be an extraordinarily time-sensitive redistricting process. In addition, Tripepi Smith is able to immediately begin providing services to the county. This is necessary for the county to satisfy its public outreach requirements in connection with its first public hearing, which is currently scheduled for July 20th, 2021. Tripepi Smith comes highly recommended, not only by NDC, but also by others I have spoken to that are either currently using or have used the firm's services. I next speak to my request for approval of the online mapping tool, Maptitude Online Redistricting. As mentioned, the redistricting process requires the board to allow public to submit draft maps in writing and electronically. To satisfy this requirement, NDC made available as part of its proposal 3 mapping options. The first is NDC's own public participation toolkit. This is an offline paper and Excel-based mapping tool designed to reach those who do not have internet access or simply prefer not to draw maps online. The cost of that tool is $3,500. The second option is District R. It's a basic online mapping tool created by Tufts University. The cost of that is $5,000. And the thing to note is the purchase of District R would include the purchase of the public participation toolkit. However, the third and recommended option is Maptitude. Maptitude is the premier online mapping tool for redistricting. It has the greatest sophistication and capability of all the mapping options presented. The cost is $17,005. And again, the purchase of Maptitude would include the purchase of both District R and the public participation toolkit. That cost is $17,500. This board has previously approved a budget of $3,500 for the public participation toolkit. So by approving Maptitude, it would incur an additional $14,000, which is factored into the total recommended budget allocation today. With that, I conclude my presentation and I'm open for any questions.
Very good. Thank you. Questions from the board?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I hope you can hear me a little bit better now. I turned down the fan. Through the chair, Diane, were you prepared today to do any kind of display of the actual the different options for these online redistricting tools? It'd be nice to actually see it, to see a presentation of that and see that in action, to make the best decision there. Were you prepared to do that?
No, I do not have a presentation of each of the online mapping tools. They were addressed in the proposal from NDC. I could harken back to that proposal if this board wants to have me bring that information in.
I just think not only moving forward, but today the redistricting is such a priority topic, a hot topic, a high level of attention around the county that we would make these efforts from day one. So could you please consider that moving forward to bring us the most transparency and the best presentations as we move forward through this process. Secondly, going back, Mr. Chair, to the letter A topic, Diane, can you talk about what I didn't hear from you was the option also to do something similar from 10 years ago, and something that the county did under the census, which is working locally with local groups, all of the different elements of which you laid out in that presentation, working with those local leaders, because as I understand, even if we go with one of these agreements that you presented for the redistricting public outreach services, how are we to know that that company is working with these folks? Who's gonna introduce a relationship to those folks around the county? So I'd like to hear from you why the board wasn't presented with the option of working locally out of here and having a lead from the county like Greg Gatska was for the census, and working with these groups around the community to get this outreach out there. Is that an option? Thank you.
I'm happy to respond to that. Yes, that was a consideration. However, it would require considerable management from in-house resources, including our public information officer, to collect and to coordinate the efforts of various community organizations. That didn't seem practical given the resources the county has presently. Also, those groups will be involved. It will be part of our obligation and part of what Tri-Pepe Smith does to reach out to all of those groups for their active involvement. Nothing less is required by the redistricting process itself. So that will happen. I also believe that by retaining a firm outside of the county, it will minimize the political process by not bringing into the process those dynamics that could have political agendas. This would be a more objective way to proceed and then gather the voices of each of those community organizations.
Okay, last, Mr. Chair, Diane, what kind of accountability could the board expect in knowing that, one, I assume there's going to be social media in some areas, especially in the more rural districts where people aren't as apt to receive information through social media. A lot of that we learned going through the COVID pandemic. I'd like to make sure the board is getting an accountability of those efforts, whether it's door to door in Stratford or Kettleman City, those type of extra efforts that we know are needed to make sure that this critical information gets out to all the people of Kings County.
I am happy to work with the board on any kind of accountability measures they'd like to implement. I would like to reiterate that it is the obligation of redistricting and the process for us to go out and reach out to these organizations, and that will be an effort. I believe that Tri-Pepe Smith will be very experienced and very capable of leading that effort. But if the board wants to put in place some accountability measures or reporting, then I have no problem with that.
But I would assume that Tri-Pepe would already have that, though, an ability. I don't think you need a motion for the board to say, hey, we want them to be accountable. I would hope and that you would know as recommending them that this company will be giving the board reports or sending the reports. I was hoping to hear from you just a simple answer on how we could expect that kind of accountability. So, Mr. Chairman, I don't believe there's a need for motion on that, but I'm quite sure that as far as our transparency to the County of Kings as well, this is something we would expect to know what's going around the county, to know that the word is getting out on meetings in the types of way that this is being done, so we could see those efforts. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Right. Further questions from the board?
This time I'd like to make a motion to approve as presented.
Nev seconds.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Joe Nevs.
Yes.
Richard Valley.
Aye.
Doug Verboon.
Yes.
Craig Peterson.
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
Okay, we have 5 in favor. Motion carries. We'll move now to item 5B, which is Department of Finance. Who's presenting today?
Rob was on there earlier.
Yeah. Okay. Can you guys hear me?
There he is.
Yes, sir.
Great. All righty. Thank you. Okay. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. It's Rob Knutson with the Department of Finance. I have 2 items before your board this morning. The first one deals with the establishment of our annual appropriation limit, which is also referred to as the GAN limit. Pursuant to Government Code Section 7910 and Article 8B of the California Constitution, each year we are required to establish appropriation limits for certain local controlled revenues like property taxes. This limit is adjusted annually by population increases and the statewide increase in personal income. The limit for 2021-22 is increasing by 1.07%, which reflects a 1.35% population increase and a 5.73% increase in personal income growth. All of these numbers are provided to us by the state. This limit continues to have no impact to our county. Taxpayer refunds would only occur if our proceeds from taxes exceed our appropriation limit. And as you can see, we are currently 132 million below that limit. Last year, we were about 121 million below that limit. So it continues to grow. So I don't think we'll ever have to worry about that. So with that, I'm asking that you adopt this ordinance a resolution establishing the county appropriation limit for fiscal year 21-22. Questions?
Questions from the board?
No questions, Mr. Chair. Move for adoption as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Nev, second by Fagundes. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Joe Nevs.
Yes.
Richard Valley.
Aye.
Doug Verboon.
Yes.
Craig Peterson.
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
We have 5 in favor, motion carries. And we'll now move to, is that item 2?
Correct. Yeah. So my other item is the introduction of an ordinance establishing our jail booking fee rate for the fiscal year 21-22. So each year, Government Code Section 29550 requires us to calculate and set this rate based on previous year amounts. The fee calculated for fiscal year 21-22 is $135 per booking. This is an increase of $4 from the previous year's charge of $131. The increase mainly due to employee benefit cost increases. So as you may recall, we used to be able to charge this rate to the cities for individuals they bring into the county jail. In 2011, the state took away this ability from us and in return dedicated a statutory annual allocation of about $120,000. So even though we now receive our jail booking fee allocation from the state, this fee was still added to the fees of a convicted defendant through the courts and probation. However, with the recent passage of AB 1869, our ability to do this was also taken away. If you recall, AB 1869 repealed our authority to charge defendants certain administrative type costs, jail administrative costs, booking fees, of course, being one of these. So even though we are currently not able to use this rate, we really haven't received any direction from the state to stop calculating it and formalizing it through an ordinance. So with that, I'm asking that you consider approving the introduction of this ordinance establishing the county booking fee rate for the 2021-2022 fiscal year and waive the reading. Any questions?
Very good. Thank you. Questions from the board?
To approve. Fagundes.
Nev seconds.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Joe Nevs,
Yes.
Richard Valley.
Aye.
Doug Verboon.
Yes.
Craig Peterson,
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
Okay, we have 5 in favor. Motion carries. Thank you, Rob. And we will now move to item 5C, which is the fire department.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Josh Cunningham, Assistant Fire Chief for Kings County Fire Department. Today I bring before you guys, can you hear me?
Yes, just stay
Okay.
close to the mic.
All right. Today I bring before you guys to the board 2 grants that we have applied for and received, and we're looking for approval to move forward with this project. In the last several years, we are transitioning the fire department over to electric hydraulic hearse equipment. They're battery operated hearse equipment that are a lot more effective and quicker use. So we're trying to transition the department into these tools from the old style pump ran hydraulic hearse equipment. We have received 3 different sets already in place, 2 by donations and 1 by USDA grant. And so we have applied for 2 more USDA grants, one for the Avenel Fire Station number 12 and the other one for the Hardwick Fire Station number 2. The Hardwick Station grant is going to be a 75% grant with us matching 25%. And the Avenel grant is going to be a 55% grant and 45% we have to pick up the bill. So for the 2 sets, it comes to a total of $75,122, which we would be paying $26,422 out of the 2021 budget. We are recommending that you authorize the fire chief to accept and sign the grant documents and any other documents as necessary for the United States Department of Agricultural Rural Development Community Facilities Grant for the purchase of hydraulic hearse rescue tools for fire station number 2, and authorize the fire chief to accept and sign the grant documents and any other documents as necessary for the United States Department of Agricultural Rural Development Community Facilities Grant for the purchase of hydraulic hearse rescue tools for fire station number 12, and to adopt a budget change, which requires a 4/5 vote. Are there any questions?
Hey, thank you, Josh. Questions from the board?
Move to approve. Seconded. We're good.
Okay, we have a motion by Fagundes, second by Verboon. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Joe Nevs,
Yes.
Richard Valley.
Aye.
Doug Verboon.
Yes.
Craig Peterson,
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
Okay, we have 5 in favor. Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, next up is item 5D, comes from the Human Services Agency and the District Attorney's Office.
Good morning, Keith Fagundes here. I think Director Begay is also on the line. We are presenting this joint resolution today in honor of June being Elder Abuse Awareness Month. Specifically, June 15th is World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. And the District Attorney's Office, our Victim Witness Investigations divisions are also partnering with the Kings County Commission on Aging, Health and Human Services, Adult Protective Services, and the Kings Community Action Organization to bring awareness to the living conditions and the situations that elders suffer each and every day. Of course, when we think of elder abuse, we think of financial trickery and other things to steal their money. by people. We also think of the basic physical abuse. But as stated in the board agenda item, the abuse goes in many other areas, such as general neglect, isolation, and things of that nature. Purple is the color this month. So if you have the occasion to wear purple, and make sure that you tell people why you're wearing purple, because it is to bring awareness to this situation and to recognize that elder abuse awareness each year happens each and every day. And it is important that everybody in our community take charge of caring for our elders, as they are the ones who built this country and built our community. So we should respect them. It's once said that when we stop respecting and caring for our elders, then we stop respecting and caring for ourselves, because we too will be elder one day with God's will. So we will be doing several events along with our partnering agencies. There will be some pinwheels starting to post around the county. There will be flags and banners that you'll also see coming in different communities. Agencies were broken up into teams to reach out to each city in our county, as well as the Lemoore Naval Air Station, where pinwheel gardens will be placed in heavy traveled areas to bring awareness to this elder abuse situation. We received permission to put gardens up at some of the fire departments and all of the county libraries. The first banner and pinwheel garden went up last week at Hanford's Hacienda Post-Acute Rehabilitation Hospital, and today at NAS Lemoore at the Fleet and Family Services Center. The multi-agency committee has also decided to do an Adopt a Senior this month. And actually for each week, we will be adopting a different senior and helping them with their obvious needs. The first senior that the committee has nominated was by Commission on Aging, and she is an elderly woman who is living without air conditioning in these hot times. And the committee will be working with KCAO weatherization program and other community programs to assist in keeping her cool and assisting her with the situation that she's in. If you know of a senior, or if you know of somebody who has such a need, such as groceries, yard work, home repairs, or anything you can think of, please contact one of the participating agencies. And remember to check on elderly neighbors, friends, and family, as they are vulnerable in these times, especially as the weather begins to heat up. I will ask the board's consent to adopt the resolution as presented and to declare June Elder Abuse Awareness Month. And I will turn it over to Director Begay at this time for some statistics.
Thank you, Keith, and thank you for covering this. I also join Keith in asking your board to adopt a resolution for proclaiming June and Elder Abuse Awareness Month. And we just wanted to share with you 2 slides on stats in our own county when it comes to elder abuse. In the current fiscal year through the month of May, we've received 712 reports of elder abuse, and about 60% of it in Hanford area, and 23% in the outlying areas, and the rest divided between our cities. And then also wanted to share with you types of allegations for the abuse. Well, majority of it, about half of the abuse, is self-neglect. In our county during the calendar year 2020, we've also had 16% of the abuse was neglect by others, 15% financial exploitation. Psychological and mental abuse was 10% of our reports, physical abuse 42 or 4%, and then the balance of it is isolation and other reports. So first step in combating this is awareness, which is what we are hoping these events will do. The second step is teaching our community about the resources, and these events will help with that as well. So thank you, Keith, and to our Commission on Aging and our other community-based organizations for joining us in this effort.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. And at this point, we'll bring it back to the board for action.
Yeah, I'm not old. Good to do so. In honor of my elder statesman here at the board, I would like to make a motion to approve it.
Thanks for your consideration. Nev seconds that.
All right. We have a motion. Motion and second. I think looks may deter from your statement, but with that, we'll move forward with the vote. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Joe Nevs,
Yes.
Richard Valley,
Aye.
Doug Verboon,
Yes.
Craig Peterson,
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Oh, yes.
All right. We have 5 in favor, motion carries. And at this time, we'll move to item 5E, which comes from information technology.
Good morning, Chairman, and good morning to your fellow board members. My
Morning.
name is John Devlin. I'm the Chief Information Officer of the IT Department. Before you, we have the new maintenance agreement for Microsoft servers and related server software. Back in May of 2018, your board entered into a maintenance agreement with Microsoft for server and the related server software. Contract was set up in a way that the county could auto-renew. However, the underlying contract, which was originally with another county, expired. Thus, the county needs to enter its own contract. We became aware of this when we went to go renew with our reseller. They went to Microsoft and found out that that underlying contract had expired. So the recommendation is to approve an agreement with Microsoft for server and related server software for 3 years, retroactively from June 1st, 2021 through May 31st, 2024. I forgot to add, authorize the purchasing manager to sign the agreement. So I'd like to add that to the recommendation. The fiscal impact is, it's a 3-year agreement that costs $365,518, and it's billed annually at $121,839. It is budgeted in the current fiscal year, as well as the upcoming fiscal year, in budget unit 195000, which is IT, account number 92058, which is rents and leases software. Some background, the county utilizes Microsoft Server, Active Directory, Hyper-V virtual server environment, System Center, and Microsoft SQL servers for our data needs. The county would literally stop working without these Microsoft products as it powers every department's data needs. Kings County was using another county's licensing agreement, and that county let their agreement lapse. Microsoft provided us with a different agreement to sign if approved by your board. The agreement has been vetted by county council and is approved as default. And I'm open for any questions.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Questions from the board? What action would be appropriate this time?
Mr. Chair, move as presented with the additional sign, adding the purchasing agent to be able to sign the contract, and Nebs moves.
Second.
Very good. So we have a motion by Nebs, second by for Boone, and motion as modified. So Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Joe Nevs,
Yes.
Richard Valley,
You should say yeah.
Yes.
Doug Verboon,
Yes.
Craig Peterson,
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
Okay. We have 5 in favor. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Devlin. Right. We'll move to item 5F, which is administration.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Rebecca Campbell, County Administrative Officer. This item is pertaining to water. And on January 12th of 2021, your board did adopt a resolution to support a permanent assignment of 150 acre feet of state water project Table A water from Sand Ridge Partners to Kettleman City Community Services District to provide potable water to the Jackson Ranch Development Project. That water was to be used for agricultural purposes, so there is still a need for adequate and potable supplies of water. Discussions occurred, and there is agreement before your board today that would allow for up to 750 acre feet annually of Dudley Ridge Water District water. It would go through the Kettleman City Community Services District turnout for delivery to Jackson Ranch, and that would support the development of Jackson Ranch. All parties do agree. However, the state water agency still needs to approve. So this would be contingent on DWR's approval, Department of Water Resources. So I wanted to let your board know that Kettleman City Community Services District did approve this agreement at their June 1st meeting, and they have signed the agreement. Also, the Dudley Ridge Water District will be responsible for all costs, fees, and expenses related to the State Water Project water delivery through the Kettleman city CSD turnout. And also the county is held harmless in this agreement. So if there are any questions, I would be happy to answer, or county council could assist.
Very good, thank you. Questions?
This is on top of the 900 that they already have access to, or is because of the ranch?
Jackson Ranch.
Jackson Ranch is because of the future use of the extended amount of water they're going to need?
This is separate water. This is Dudley Ridge water. This is up to 750 acre feet of Dudley Ridge water. The 900 acre feet of water comes directly to the Kettleman City Services District.
Separate.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
You got a question?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't know Superman was done. Mr. Chairman, first I want to thank Rebecca Campbell and County Council for their efforts on this. I know this was a lot of work as well, and I know other board members put time and effort on this issue. So thank you to all of you as well. But Mr. Chairman, with Rebecca Campbell leaving, who else staff-wise was the lead on this topic along with county council? So we know moving forward, an issue comes up a year from now, who's the go-to person to go to for the knowledge and the memory on this issue?
Mr. Chair, Lee Burdick,
Yes, ma'am.
County Council. Good morning. Board tracks meet legal formalities and reflect the board's general approach to water issues.
And Supervisor Valley, we also have coordinating meetings with the Tulare Lake Storage Basin Water District. Hopefully, I know I didn't get that right, but off the top of my head, but we have coordinating meetings with them and they help us and assist us with some of the water topics. And we do that routinely. And that meeting will be turned over to the assistant CAO.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you both for the background and the further information on that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Further questions, comments?
I'll make a motion as approved or presented, sorry.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Verboen, second by Fagundes. Madam Clerk, please call our roll.
Joe Nevs,
Yes.
Richard Valley,
Aye.
Doug Verboon,
Yes.
Craig Peterson,
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
Okay,
I don't have a question on this item. I had nothing against it, but how do we handle these situations like this when we don't have a water policy for the county future?
Well, you handle them on an anecdotal basis, presented one at a time.
If we had a water policy, that wouldn't change it.
Conceivably, it would. If the board said, by policy, we want to encourage these activities and discourage those activities, it might influence the way the contracts are drafted in order to get county approval. So conceivably, depending on the policy adopted, it could impact these kinds of activities.
Thank you.
okay, very good.
It'd probably be more difficult in like with Avenal and the Lamar Naval Air Station when you bring water in.
Yeah, I just.
Because we have an import, but we don't, that's the trouble with the water policy, is it import or export?
Right.
And it affects
Identify the
both.
water.
Correct.
We have to identify all issues. So
Right.
on one case by case basis, probably better
Right.
for this.
Great, thank you. We did have a vote and the vote was 5 in favor. Motion carried. And okay, this time we'll move to item 5G, which is administration. Ms. Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we're going to go ahead and pull up the presentation. And I am delighted this morning to present the proposed budget to your board for fiscal year 2021-22. This will be my last presentation of budget to your board, so it's been a very good ride over the years. I want to thank all of the department heads for working with me It has been a privilege and a pleasure to work on this budget and a lot of fun to work on it. I want to thank my staff, Kyria Martinez, Domingo Cruz, Matthew Boyette, and Sarah Poots for all of their long hours and hard work this year getting to this proposed budget. I also want to thank the Department of Finance, Information Technology, and Public Works because they help us and assist us with some of those ancillary units and trying to figure out some of the charges out to departments. So we really appreciate all of your time doing that. So we do have a balanced budget before your board today. I'm going to turn it over to Assistant CAO Kyria Martinez, and she's going to talk about it.
Good morning, board members. Kyria Martinez, Assistant CAO. So a little bit of overview. We will go over the assumptions, the budget equation, the general fund history. We will review the fund balance and contingencies. We will look at some budget charts, speak a little bit about the position allocation, contested budgets, and steps moving forward. So these are some basic assumptions in the current recommended budget for 21-22. We have a $2.2 million general fund offset in the current recommended budget for health department. This is due to responding to COVID-19. Not included in the budget is funding priorities for the American Rescue Plan Act, the ARPA. We are bringing a study session on June 22nd, and also not included in the budget is minimum wage increases.
So just to reiterate, this is a little unusual this year. The health department typically has a maintenance of effort with the board and with the county. And so their general fund offset is standard every year. This year is unusual because we are still in a pandemic and the health department does still have a number of requirements related to that. So in this budget, there is $2.2 million additional general fund offset towards the health department to help that department fight the pandemic.
Some additional basic assumptions. We have the CalPERS cost is $2.5 million. And this is an annual payment for both miscellaneous and safety due to rate increases. This is an annual thing the county has to pay. We have the Human Services Agency debt service payment of $609,000. This includes the payment of $500,000 with the principal payment and the interest of $109,000. So this debt is scheduled to be paid off in fiscal year 27-28. We also have the One Solution annual payment. This is $332,000 a year. This is payment 4 out of 5 for the One Solution Finance System Upgrade Project. This year, we're also requesting to add enhancement to our hiring system, NeoGov. In order to streamline hiring and onboarding processes countywide, this payment will add $126,000 per year for the next 3 years. Also, this year is the first year payment of our property tax system that was implemented during the current fiscal year. The annual payment is $119,000. Also included is the state funding for the SB 81 juvenile project and the sheriff's operation building. Also, last year, we entered into a new medical jail contract for the jail and juvenile hall. At that time, our contract was $3.7 million. For 2021, it was $4.8 million, which is a $1 million increase from the previous year. And for 21-22, the contract is now at $5 million. So the annual increase of $154,000 is included in this recommended budget. This jail medical contract does impact 4 departments, and 2 of those are general fund, which is the sheriff's and probation. Now looking over, this is the requested budget. So starting on the far left.
And this is the general fund only.
Starting on the far left for adopted 2021, we had a fund balance of 16.6 million. We had 0 in canceled reserves, 269 million in revenue with available financing at 286.1 million. Our expenditures were at 285.3 million. We designated 725,000 in reserves. We had 9 million contingencies with the total appropriations of 286 million. We had a balanced budget for 2021. Moving over to the far right, we have the requested budget for 21-22. Our fund balance was 23.1 million, 0 in canceled reserves, and available financing at 301.5 million. For expenses, we had 290 million. This is the amount requested from departments. Referring back to our fund balance, we had unbudgeted reimbursement revenues and one-time settlements that increased our fund balance by 6 million. So that's why that 23.1 million you see there, it's uncommon. Our fund balance usually comes around 15 to 16 million. So we're designated 6 million of those one-time fund to go into reserves. Requesting the 9 million in contingency, our requested budget had the $3.6 million deficit to reach that 9 million contingency goal. This slide shows the recommended budget presented to your board today. On the far right, you see the recommended 21-22 fund balance still is at 23.08 million. Current revenues are 276.8 million, with available financing at 299.9 million. Expenditures are at 293.9 million, designated reserves 6 million, and the contingencies did drop at 7.47 million, with the total appropriations at 299.9 million. We landed on the 7.47 in contingencies to maintain service levels. This shows the general fund history by years for approximately 10 years over the growth period. So from 2009, 2010, as you can see in the available column in the middle, the bold column in 2009, 2010, we pulled out reserves to weather the recession we were hit with. It did help. In 2012, 2013, we infused 1 million of general fund to workers' comp and liability. As you can see, our contingency dropped to an almost all-time low at that time. In 2016, 2017, that year shows the highest contingency we've had at 11.4 million. And that was when the board implemented salary study increases the years following. Last year in 2021, after years and years, we were able to set aside 725,000 in reserves. And this fiscal year, we are at an all-time high of available financing of 299.9 million. So we are recommending to set aside the 6 million in reserves. I want to note too that, a lot of questions sometimes comes up as to the reserve amount. So the Government Finance Officers Association recommends at a minimum to keep 2 months reserve 16.6%, which is 49 million of our budget, which is highly unlikely to set aside in reserves, but a 10% is a little bit more realistic, which is 29 million. Currently, we have 7.4 in contingencies for our recommended budget. This year, we have 3.7 million in reserves. So both of those amounts equal 11.12 in contingencies and reserves. By infusing the 6 million, we would have 17.12 million in reserves, 12 million short of a 10% goal. This slide is another way to show our fund balance with contingencies. As you can see, there is a large swing in the fund balance for this fiscal year, and that is because of the one-time funds we received in the current year. This chart shows the general fund net county costs by department. As you can see, the public safety departments are the highest net county cost to the county, signifying that public safety is the #1 priority in this county. This slide shows the net county cost change from prior year, the increased cost to general fund from prior adopted 2021 budget to what is being recommended today for 21-22. The blue column shows the department, and the orange shows the cost increase amount. And then the yellow column shows the percent increase. In volume 1, the narratives, the book that was presented to your board, you will find department level explanation for these departmental budgets. And we plan to present to your board more details at final budget hearing. Next few slides, I will go over some charts for the recommended budget. So this chart 1 reflects all expenditures in the county as a whole. This includes all general funds, special revenues, which includes the library, the road, fire, capital projects, and debt service funds. If you can see, all other funds at 32.9 million or 8% of the budget. There's general government, 26.2 million or 6% of the budget. Public safety is at 105.8 million, 26% of the budget. Public transportation is at 15.8, about 4% of the budget. Health is at 55.1 million or 13% of the budget. Public assistance is at 123 million or 30% of the budget. Education and recreation is at 5.1 million, which is about 1.2% of the budget. And capital projects is at 41.1 million at 10% of the budget. This chart is the proposed budget financing sources at 405.4 million. Fund balance is at 51.32 million or 12% of the budget. State and federal are at 226 million or 55% of the budget. Public safety sales tax is at 8.79 or 2% of the budget. Hazardous waste tax is at 1.4 million or 35% of the budget. General taxes are at 63.5 million or 15% of the budget. Charges for services are at 13.4 million or 3% of the budget. And other revenues are at 40.5 million or 10% of the budget. The next chart shows the proposed budget general fund expenditures by function. So as you can see, the contingency, as I mentioned earlier, is at 7.4 million or 2% of the budget. General government is at 25.3 million or 8% of the budget. Public assistance is at 117.8 million or 40% of the budget. Health is at 55.1 million or 18.7% of the budget. Education and recreation is at 2.7 or about 1% of the budget. Public safety is at 84 million or 28% of the budget. Debt services is about almost a million or 0.3% of the budget. Okay, two more charts. This is chart 4 for general fund financing sources at 299.9 million. Fund balance is at 23 million or 7% of the budget. State and federal are at 189 million or 63% of the budget. Public safety sales tax at 7.24 or 2.4% of the budget. Hazardous waste tax at 1.4 million or 0.45% of the budget. General tax are at 52.4 million or 17% of the budget. Charges for services and fees are at 12.8 million or 4% of the budget. And other revenues are at 13.7 million or 4.5% of the budget. This chart shows the general fund expenditures for 21-22 recommended budget of the 293.9 million and points out that 84% or 246 million of the budget has no or very little discretion. We can't touch any of the money in the blue pie. Only 47.8 million or 16% of the entire budget contains discretionary programs that are subject to reduction. So these include your sheriff, your contingencies, probation, your DA. Those are considered discretionary funds. Virtually no discretion funds departments are those like human services. Okay, now we will go over the position changes. In our recommended budget for 21-22, we have 1,618.91 full-time employees. We are adding 15 positions, deleting 25.8, so resulting in a 24.2 increase in positions from last year. 6 positions are unfunded. This is a 2.1% increase from adopted 2021 budget. We did not recommend 18 positions from our requested budget. We have all the information on specific departments if you have further questions, but we plan to go over the detail at final budget. This shows This slide shows the FTEs since 2009 to 2010 to show the growth to where we are now at 21-22. Last year, we adopted 1,584.71, and then during the current year, we added 10 positions. Now you can see we're at 1,618 employees in 21-22. At this time, we do have a disagreement on the IT budget regarding position changes. We plan to continue to work through the summer and hope to come to an agreement on final budget hearings or sooner with the Information Technology Department. At this time, we request to consider adopting the fiscal year 21-22 proposed budget as presented and direct the Department of Finance Director to make proposed budget available to the public and schedule final budget hearings to commence Monday, August 16th, 2021 in the board chambers at 9 a.m. and instruct the clerk of the board to give proper notice of final budget hearings. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.
So bringing this back to the board, your action today would allow the county to move to the new fiscal year and authorize current spending for the new fiscal year. We would return August 16th. The administration office will return to present final budget hearings and go over the budgets in more detail. And so I would request that your board adopt and move forward with all the steps that the assistant outlined.
Very good. Thanks for that. So I know it's a tall hill to climb and challenging times and uninsured of how COVID has and will continue to affect county budgets now and into the future. But with that, again, thank you all for your hard work in this process. And now we'll move to questions and DA Fagundes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I spoke with Kyria, and it's been a pleasure working with her and, of course, all of admin through this budget process. And we spoke yesterday. I do have one issue with the budget. I'm loath to call it a contesting the budget because that sounds so adversarial. We've had such a good process this year with the budget. But we put in an additional request. If you look at our requested budget for another low-level full-time deputy district attorney, and we submitted a justification to your admin, and I don't know that that was necessarily provided, but we are in a circumstance where dating back to 2017, we only had 6 courtroom departments to staff, and today we have 9 courtroom departments to staff, if my math is correct there. But each year since 2017, there's been an additional department added, and yet we haven't really added any general staffing to cover those general departments. The only staffing we've been able to add in the last few years is for special projects and special prosecution. We were able to add a prison attorney this year, and that's just for the sheer volume of the prison cases coming through and the volume of all the work dealing with prisons, but it doesn't alleviate our calendar situation. And we cannot bill the prison grant or the special grants when our deputies are running calendars. So we are nearly in dire straits with the number of deputies we have to run the departments and run the calendars. We were lucky for a time when we had visiting judges here because we were able to bounce attorneys from one department to the other. And the courts were cooperative in that they wouldn't have the 2 additional departments running at the same time. When the last department was added last year, it was an agreement with the courts that they would not have those 2 departments running at the same time so we could share staffing between them. And that didn't happen. What we have is now full-time departments, 8-15 all day long. The only break is when civil cases are being handled in 2 of the departments, and that's haphazard. We never know when that's going to happen. We also have 1,133 cases going next week, and that is average since COVID. But as COVID alleviates and we move forward, we'll be up to 1,800 to 2,000 cases each week. We have nearly 2,000 hearings to appear on each week with those 1,133 cases next week. And the cost of adding an additional deputy DA is $120,000 in dollars, but the cost on the extra work and the burden and the stress put on our deputy DAs each and every day, as today we not only battle the legislature and the new laws, but we have to battle the defense attorneys who are paid to battle us. And even because of the change in the laws, judicial rulings are not the same as they used to be. So we fight it on all fronts, and we also have to deal with trying to fund the office as well. But of a $7.47 million contingency, I think it's well worth the impact it would have on staff to alleviate the burdens and the stress we already have with $120,000, which would leave your contingency still at $7,350,000. And I would urge this board to really consider it as we move into final budget. I would like an opportunity to present what we've prepared on the justification for this position. I wasn't listed as contesting the budget, as Kyria and I talked yesterday, in that it's been a good process, and I don't want it to sound as though this is adversarial and I have any ill will for the work of admin, because I know it's a monumental task to put such a budget together. But I just want to remind the board that with more than $7.5 million in contingency, this is the time that we need to start to move our 52% grant funded DA's office into a 53% general fund funded DA's office. And the reason is, if the grant money ever dries up, we will lose more than half of our staffing, making it completely impossible to make appearances, to get restitution for victims, to defend the people of this state for all the crimes that are committed. And we file nearly 10,000 cases a year, new cases, and that's not done on lowly paid staffing. It is well paid staffing and staff that works hard. And I can guarantee you that in this department, you're getting your money's worth for the money that we do spend. And I would ask the opportunity as this budget moves forward that we add that extra DDA position in addition to the other budget that we have. With that, I'd be welcome for any questions you might have.
And thank you. Yeah, I'm sure we have many departments that, have similar concerns and requests and the challenges of a small county in a time of unrest and challenges to financing throughout the state of California and us as well. I mean, not that the governor doesn't have all kinds of money to throw around, but anyways, we thank you for your comments, comments from the board.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be brief. I did take a phone meeting with Rebecca Campbell first thing yesterday morning. I want to thank her for her time on that. I called on the proposed budget. I had some overall general questions to get the conversation started. And one of them, first and foremost for me, for District 2 was, does this proposed budget contain any cuts to District 2? Does it have any takeaways to some of the issues that we have pointed out? And I was happy to hear from Rebecca that this proposed budget does not have that. And so just one of the other things is we come through this presentation, and I'm very happy that Kira pointed out the fact that the budget puts our money where our mouth is when it comes to public safety, and that the budget does show that public safety, whether it's to our department, the hardworking men and women in those departments, the sheriff, the DA's office, probation, and also just as importantly, the residents of the County of Kings, it shows that public safety is at priority. So, Mr. Chairman, the other priority, though, to me and I'm sure many of you, is our veterans of Kings County, the veterans of our nation. And I would just at some point be interested, to be assured by Mr. Howe that he has, him and his staff have what they need to meet those, the high demand of services from the veterans in our county. And I know they have a huge workload over there. It's a never ending workload. It's a cycle. It's men and women coming back home from their time in the service. It's issues that develop later on in the lives of veterans. But they got to have what they need over there, Mr. Chairman. And so I'm hopeful that this budget meets that. If not, I'd be very interested in hearing about that. So when we go into August, the last thing, Mr. Chairman, and again, without seeing the budget book, I do know that when the county a couple months ago voted that the Kettleman City pedestrian bridge is our #1 priority, I do know that the county has funds put away. We have funds ready to go if, in fact, we do get a $2 million influx of funding, either from the federal or the state. So can I just ask very quickly, Mr. Chair, is that money in this year's budget, or is that money already that the county has set aside?
I'm not sure which money you're referring to, Supervisor Valley. Could you clarify?
Yeah, I believe Dominic has presented the board, and it was in, I believe, in our background memos that if in fact we did get a $2 million earmark, that the county stood ready with matching funds to help make that budget whole to build that pedestrian bridge in Kettleman City, unless I'm understanding that wrong. There was the gas tax revenues the county we received.
I would defer to Mr. Tyberski. Perhaps there's something in the roads fund, but I'm not sure. We haven't gotten that far on my end.
Okay, and then so I would just, without taking up the board's time, I would just ask that, again, very hopeful. I know Assembly Member Rudy Salas is working hard to try to bring something back out of the state budget as it relates to the $2 million for the Kettleman City bridge, pedestrian bridge. We're in a lot of communication with Senator Padilla's office multiple times weekly, working at the federal level for that $2 million. And so I would just ask that to keep the conversation going, again, with this being our #1 priority, that if in fact those attempts at the federal and state level are failed attempts, that we work within this budget to move that project along in Kettleman City. And so again, going into August budget hearings, we'll obviously we should know whether or not we had funding brought in. And again, I'm hopeful that that's the case. I'm being very positive about that. And so my conversation here might be a moot point, but I did want to point that out. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Further questions, comments, or actions by the board at this point?
I think, Mr. Chair, the only thing that I have is that August 16th, I might have a conflict and so may not be available. But I've missed before. 1 year I had jury duty and, you know, other things happen. But right now I have a conflict and I'll miss the 16th.
Mr. Chairman, didn't we go to September last year and didn't that work out better for us?
We are requesting to do the hearings in August, but we can go back and look at the dates and see if we can find a better date that everyone can be here.
Supervisor, does the 9th or the 23rd work?
I would shoot for the 23rd.
Of August?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to need time to close the books.
Yeah, or just shoot for the 17th and wrap them up on the 18th.
Yeah, that works.
You know?
Yeah.
Just plan on the 17th, evening, the afternoon after morning session, and hopefully keep that agenda halfway reasonable and make a 2-day event out of it with the afternoon of the 17th and the morning of the 18th, and hopefully wrap that up and break that up into 2 sections instead of a 1-day marathon. You know, but again, you've had those budget hearings before without me, and I know you can do it again.
I get like that.
I know it exactly. It's a lot quicker.
Well,
We
I think we
wanna
want to be
make sure you're
inclusive
there,
in the
sir.
process, and so anything we can do to have all 5 members for one of the most important days of the calendar year is well worth looking at. So,
Yeah, so if it works out, fine. If it doesn't, that's fine. You know, I just don't know how scheduling is gonna work.
okay. With that, further questions, comments from the board with respect to?
We don't make a motion on this. This is just information, right?
No, we do need
We
to
have to.
move on this.
I'll make a motion as presented that we budget meeting for 17th of August and approve it presented.
Nev seconds that, Mr. Chair, as long as we add the, you know, and I know admin's going to continue to work with department heads to make sure we get a lot of those issues resolved and just make it a priority to try to get those, you know, issues resolved. And if it means coming before this board in a study session even before, I would offer up that suggestion as well. So I certainly don't want to hold the department heads back from doing their role. And so if a study session would be the best tool to be able to accomplish that prior to those August dates, yeah, I would just open that up for a suggestion as well.
I like that idea. I mean, other counties do that. It helps move the discussion along and with thorough transparency. I like that.
Right. So was that a second then?
Correct.
All right. So we have a motion and a second to adopt the proposed budget at this time and then move forward the final budget hearings and instruct the clerk of the board to give proper notice for the final budget hearings. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Joe Nevs,
Yes.
Richard Valley,
Aye.
Doug Verboon,
Yes.
Craig Peterson,
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
Okay, we have 5 in favor, motion carries. We'll now move to item H, which is administration.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This item is a weekly item that we've been presenting to your board regarding the novel coronavirus 2019 pandemic. I wanted to let your board know that last week, the governor did come out and talk about that, but he gave an assurance that comes with a coalition of local agency associations formally requesting that the governor consider providing a period of transition back to in-public meetings prior to repeal of relevant executive orders. There was communication that came out of the governor's office indicating that the governor fully intends to terminate pandemic-related executive orders at the earliest possible date when conditions warrant. But also he recognizes the importance of an orderly return to in-person state and local public meetings. As a result, the administration will work to provide notice to affected stakeholders in advance of repeal of relevant executive orders. So until further notice, the order is issued, local agencies may continue to rely on existing orders and this format. I want to thank Catherine Venturella and some other folks for doing some research into transitioning our board meetings back to open. The health department participated, risk management, information technology, and the clerk's office. So I wanted to call that out. Just a few points of their research. The health department did identify that the California Department of Public Health regulations and guidelines still require face masks while indoors. And the Division of Occupational Safety and Health, or Cal-OSHA, still require the use of physical distancing and physical barriers until July 31 of 2021. The approach that is recommended to the board would allow your board to consider a process for phasing in a reopening plan for the board chambers. I just want to talk about few phasing in points. So between June 15th in 2021 and July 6th, 2021, voluntary in-person presentations by departments and the public, the use of alternating podiums with disinfectant between presenters, no live audience, and attendance rosters to facilitate case investigation and contact tracing. Between July 6th and July 27th of 2021, we are discussing in-person presentations and public comment, the use of alternating podiums with disinfectant between presenters, no live audience, and attendance rosters to facilitate case investigation and contact tracing. Between July 27th of 2021 and August 17th of 2021, in-person presentations and public comment, the use of alternating podiums with disinfectant between presenters, live audience with physical distancing, and attendance rosters to facilitate case investigation and contact tracing. So that's would be that period right there would be where a live audience could come in. And then after August 17th, there would be no restrictions. So those are the phasing in approach that was discussed and recommended. This approach would allow time towards the July 31, 2021 regulations and guidelines to work towards a 50% capacity while accommodating the rest of the board and the public to attend. The risk manager did concur with that metered approach on opening, and it will allow staff the time also to work on the technology piece. Building maintenance was also involved, and they are willing to install more partitions in addition to the current ones based on recommendations from risk management. Staff also did some research. The clerk did some research on other counties. And just a note there are four counties currently that have their chambers open to the public. There are 10 that have their chambers closed to the public. There are 11 that currently have their chambers open with limitations. The clerk also contacted a vendor to seek quotes on the technology piece. It is approximately up to $100,000 to keep the video conferencing and also the YouTube and all the equipment that would be required for a permanent installation. Is there anything you want to add to that, Ms. Vendrella?
Not at this point.
Okay. So that's what I have for your board today. I wanted to just give your board an update on that phase-in approach and seek your board's comments on that. And now I will turn it over to Director of Public Health, Mr. Edward Hill.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Ed Hill, Public Health. I'm going to start my presentation as I always do, reminding those and everyone the simple steps we can take to protect ourselves from communicable diseases, which are frequently wash your hands for 20 seconds or more. Don't touch your face with unwashed hands. Stay hydrated with water. A hydrated cell is a healthy cell. Stay home if you're sick and wear face coverings to protect yourself and loved ones. My update's going to be pretty brief today. Our daily numbers are available on our website. We do continue to watch hospital data closely, and we continue to see a decline in medical or general admissions and ICU admissions regionally. And locally, we are seeing what I would call a stable trend. No real increases, but a pretty stable trend moving forward. As of 6/6, the local hospital had 4 COVID patients in med-surg and 1 patient in ICU. Our PPE status has not changed. As announced 4 weeks ago, the state did offer to distribute a 30-day of supply of PPE from their state stockpile to healthcare facilities who requested those supplies. Also mentioned last week, we did reach out to those entities and only 1 requested those supplies. And then we did, as mentioned, also reach out to the state to see if they would allow us to release those supplies to other industries throughout the county. And unfortunately, they told us no, it had to be healthcare facilities. We will continue to follow up, and we anticipate as the trend continues to move forward, they may relax that moving forward. On the mobile testing program, that site for the schedule for that program is on our website. I do want to update your board that CDPH did adopt the CDC most recent testing guidance on diagnostic screening for vaccinated, unvaccinated, as well as post-exposure and response testing. For non-healthcare individuals, they recommend diagnostic testing for asymptomatic non-vaccinated individuals in certain high-risk non-healthcare settings to detect COVID-19 early. These are workplaces such as high contact with public, like public restaurants, public transport theaters, amusement parks, also areas where physical distancing is not possible, like food processing, those that cover housing, fishing vessels, things along those lines. However, fully vaccinated individuals do not need to undergo diagnostic screening and testing in non-healthcare settings, workplaces. For healthcare personnel, they are recommending diagnostic screening testing for asymptomatic should continue regardless of vaccine status. As you can imagine, these folks are around sick people quite frequently, so their chances of encountering individuals that are COVID positive remain high, so they continue to request that non-healthcare healthcare workers test on a regular basis. They do have a caveat in there that at a long-term care facility, if 70% or greater of the residents and staff are fully vaccinated, they can stop diagnostic testing. And then at other healthcare settings, if 70% of the staff is fully vaccinated, they also recommend that they do not need to continue with diagnostic testing. The guidance on post-exposure testing, so these are those with symptoms or that have been exposed to a confirmed or suspected COVID-19 case. For non-vaccinated individuals, individuals that have been fully vaccinated and have close contact with someone who have tested positive should be tested. And for those that are fully vaccinated who remain asymptomatic do not need to test following exposure to someone with suspected or confirmed COVID-19, but the situation will dictate those recommendations depending on whether any variants were involved at that exposure or not. Exceptions where testing is still recommended following an exposure to someone with suspected or confirmed COVID-19 include fully vaccinated residents and employees of non-health care congregate settings, fully vaccinated employees of high-density workplaces like food processing plants, and fully vaccinated dormitory residents. Testing in these settings is still recommended because they may face higher turnover of residents and higher risk of transmission. And then finally, the guidance on response testing. Response testing is the repeated testing performed following an exposure that has occurred in high-risk residential congregate settings and high-risk, high-density workplaces. And the goal of the response testing is to identify if the infection or the spread continues throughout the organization. And they recommend that response testing should occur for all individuals, residents, and staff, regardless of vaccine status, in the facility as soon as possible after one or more of the individuals or resident staff with COVID-19 is identified in a facility. However, if fully vaccinated, the staff are not required to quarantine or be excluded from work. On our numbers, our current metrics for the blueprint are our new cases per 100,000 is at 2.5 this week. Our overall testing positivity is at 1%. Our testing positivity in the lowest quartile of the Healthy Places Index is at 1.1%. So this means our new cases per 100,000 meets the orange tier criteria, and our overall testing positivity and testing positivity for the HPI still remain in the yellow tier criteria. Our tests per 100,000 has remained steady at 323. And I need to point out that next week will be the state's last run of the blueprint numbers. They will be publishing those numbers on Monday or Tuesday morning, as they often do, but those numbers will have no effect on the county status, as that is the day before the June 15th date. I also wanted to address some items being discussed as Ms. Campbell being discussed and misunderstood, as Ms. Campbell pointed out. On June 15th, the blueprint for a safer economy does end, and all capacity and social distancing requirements stop, but the state of emergency remains in place so that the state can continue to respond quickly to
Sounds like we may
evolving
have
conditions.
lost Mr. Hill.
Can you hear me?
Okay.
Hello?
You have any further comments?
I don't have any further comments.
Okay.
Mr.
Well, we're
Chairman,
pretty far along in his presentation. If we get him back, maybe we can have him finish his presentation at a later time. But
All audio?
oh, yeah, good question.
Can you hear me, Mr. Chairman?
He's doing something. Can Supervisor Valley hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can't hear you, Supervisor.
I think it may be in the chamber, Supervisor.
That means it's,
Lost conductivity.
that board goes off.
Time was up. When it works.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, can you hear me now?
Richard, can you hear us okay? Yeah, he's,
Mr. Hill, I believe it's an audio issue within the chambers. We're working on it.
If you need to switch over to the built-in mic speakers, you can do that. Yeah, that might be the easiest. We're talking about Aaron.
Oh, no, Ed.
Actually going to run it through the other speakers. It'll sound a little differently, but that's our backup.
as long as we look good.
Is
Meeting.
everyone able to still hear?
Filters.
Okay, I got confirmation from Supervisor Valley that he is able to hear us. Ed's going to call back in.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great.
Please
Sorry
continue.
about that.
No, our end.
Okay. I think I was just summarizing the statement Ms. Campbell made about the emergency order staying in place, even though the blueprint is ending. This will allow for the state to continue to respond quickly to evolving conditions as they emerge. If they emerge, hopefully they won't. And then in addition to that, CDPH did let public health departments know last week that they were going to allow us to keep the contact tracers that they had on loan for us, which we much appreciate, even though there's not a lot of work for them right now. It could change at any moment, and it always takes a while to spool or get that process up and running. So we think it was wise of them to allow us to maintain that staff during this phase. On the vaccine update, last week, Public Health administered 270 vaccines. We continue to have plenty of available appointments in all of our clinics and still have the capacity to provide 700 doses a day just at Public Health. And then as a reminder, at our request, the state did remove the OptumServe vaccine website to another county, and we being Public Health, have moved our Hanford vaccine operations to that location, which has allowed us to monitor patients in a climate-controlled facility instead of outside, which is good with the impending temperatures coming. And it also has allowed us to resume our regular tuberculosis, valley fever, and other public health clinic functions at our clinic here. So far, Kings County providers have administered 75,843 vaccines. On May 14th, we started vaccinating the 12 to 15 population, and so far, Public Health has provided or administered 287 vaccines to individuals in this age group, and Kings County providers have administered 12,092 vaccines to this age group. Finally, we will be holding a special vaccine event with the Californian Surgeon General. We'll be coming down to Corcoran to personally administer vaccines to the 12 and older population. She is a licensed pediatrician with a background in public health, and her name's Dr. Nadine Burke-Harris, is known for her work in linking adverse childhood effects, or ACEs, to negative health outcomes in adulthood. Her research on the subject was a catalyst for much of the widespread work on ACEs we see today, including the trauma-informed care model used here in Kings County as an ACEs Aware Award grantee. She will be here on Wednesday, tomorrow, June 9th, and we've been promoting the event among local partners, including KPFP, our District 2 Supervisor, and Corcoran Unified, and then the state is supposed to ramp up promotions pretty widely today. This concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Hill. Questions, comments from the board? Supervisor Bradley.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, the background memo was really good. I appreciate a lot of what staff put in there as it relates to moving forward. And we know this pandemic, it not only exposed our weaknesses and our strengths for that matter, but it also just showed us some areas where we weren't prepared. And so being extremely accessible from our board meetings and broadcasting virtually to the public, that was one of them. And again, I think we just have to highlight the efforts and thank the staff, Catherine, Rebecca, the IT department, the workers who have been in the chambers. That was a lot for everyone to do and do it on the run and do it in the middle of a pandemic to make sure that the folks of the county had access to these updates and hearing what Mr. Hill presented to the board weekly. And at that time, information was very crucial and helped relieve a lot of stress to the residents of the county. So I do appreciate that they're doing work. It looks like they're going to be ready at some point to come back before the board where we could actually agendize these decisions as it relates to either funding through the one-time funding we have, these recovery monies coming to get the equipment to be better prepared for the future if this thing comes back around again, or if there's ever some type of emergency at the county level that people know that they can live stream, they could get the information from the YouTube recording as well of our board meetings. And so I want to thank them for doing that work, and I look forward to seeing the information presented in detail and the examples here. And I also like how it ends that the IT director is reviewing some bids already, and everything sounds reasonably priced for the current market, and also the possibility of staff touring another county facility or city facility that would have this equipment already installed, so they can go and get a hands-on feel and come back and bring that information to us. But I think that's very important, crucial information. So I just want to end by saying thank you to that. And then to Mr. Hill's point on the event tomorrow, I do want to, on behalf of the city of Corcoran, I want to thank Mr. Hill and the California Surgeon General for coming tomorrow. We got some information on social media last night. The information is coming late to Mr. Hill. I know he's been asking to get digital flyers, things that are postable. And so as this information comes out today, we'll continue to work to get it out through the Nixle system here in Corcoran, the cell phone system for people to get a copy of the flyer and the information for tomorrow and our social medias. But we do have leadership ready to stand with Mr. Hill and the Surgeon General tomorrow. The Mayor of Corcoran, Pat Nolan, will be there. Councilwoman Jeanette Bragg, the president of the Corcoran Unified School District. I contacted him as well. His name is Sam Ramirez. He's going to be there, and a rep from the County Board of Education. And now that we got confirmation late yesterday, we'll continue to do outreach today to get some folks there. So thank you all for your efforts in that, and tomorrow will be a good day in Corcoran. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Further questions, comments on the item? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to item 6, which is the study session from the fire department and Chief Lynch.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm trying to start my video, but there we go. And you can't see me, can you? Okay, well, we'll get started. I know we're a little pushed for time here. What I'd like to do this morning is share a study session with you related to Fire Station 4, review and seek directions related to Fire Station 4 and relocation of that station. There we go. Now it's up. Can everyone see that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If you remember back 2017, we actually did a station location study, which allowed us to get data back and information back related to where Fire Station 4 should be in relation to our other fire stations. So what was the work was done by Citygate. It was done, I initiated it, but then it was done after my exit or my retirement. Chief Smith finished it off. But I'm not sure if there was any determinations made in what was going to be done or how it was going to be done. So moving forward, this is what the study looked like. Like I said, it was done by Citygate. It was done May 2017. And it was done in conjunction with our agency and a couple other agencies within the county related to high-speed rail and the impacts of high-speed rail on Station 4. Some of the study objectives that Citygate utilized was to identify those impacts on our department operations as related to Station 4, identify and evaluate possible consolidations or relocations of fire stations that enhance our response and performance, and particularly in the greater Hanford-Lemoore service area. While Station 4 does serve Corcoran also, they did include that in their study. Some of the relocation priorities that they identified was Station 4, South Hanford, was impacted by the high-speed rail. The possibility that our Mona Station, Station 5, should house the ladder truck as it is a centrally located station. They identified Hardwick, the age of the facility was aging and had a high maintenance cost, those type of things. As with South Lemoore, Burris Park, and Island stations, they did recommend moving or improving those stations. Station sidings considerations, some of the things that they looked at was what's the greatest population served in the shortest amount of time possible, travel time. So they looked at 4-minute travel time distances, 5-minute travel time distances, and 6-minute travel time distances. And then the goal is to eliminate gaps in those travel distances. This allows you to get an effective response force on scene of an incident, whether it be a structure fire, hazmat, or whatever incident we're responding to, without having long delays or gaps in the response times of additional or backup apparatus or resources. Other siting considerations was to make sure there's no political, natural, or human-built barriers within the first 2 travel time. High-speed rail is a human-built barrier related to Impact Station 4. There is really no natural barriers. And with the advent of automatic aid with both the city of Lemoore and the city of Hanford, that political barrier is eliminated also. And then to provide immediate rapid response to primary routes in all directions, which means they can get out of their station and travel, in any direction without any hindrance. Scenario 1 was the map that they utilized or the recommendation that they utilized to base most of their conclusions on, and that involved stations 1, 2, 4, 6, and 7. What the chart I showed previously, the reasons for those was because of some of the aging and location, those type of things. Scenario 1, provided at least almost a 27% better response in our 4-minute travel time to the populated areas of Hanford and Lemoore and to service Corcoran also. The first 2 coverage maps for that study area were improved. It provided a 76% increase in our effective response force travel time and coverage. And part of the study, it was based on the high percentage of the urban and population density. The county is big. We don't have stations everywhere, but the population density is where we look at most of the call volume. So this is the map that they submitted, and you'll notice this is where the current, where my pointer is. This is where the current fire station 4 is. You'll notice their proposal puts it down somewhere south of Hanford, Idaho, on 10th Avenue. Now, one of the things, and I've recently spoke to them, one of the things that has changed that's not reflected on this map is the fact that the city of Hanford is going to take over service in all of the county islands, all these areas up in here where we actually have responsibility right now. Crass, Cary, Malone Street, all those areas that run east of 10th Avenue, we still have responsibility in there, as well as Kings Road, which is up on Grangeville. And having spoke to them about the possibility or about the reality that City of Hanford is going to take these islands over, the thought is we could move this station a little bit farther south to better serve our purposes. And then also with the addition of the City of Hanford has confirmed with me that they are working to build a fire station at the Florenda Street alignment at 9th Avenue. So that will be their next, their fourth station will be on the east side of town to service their commercial developments and things that are happening out here. So moving this south a little bit does a few things for us. It puts us out of the realm of the city boundary, which is this line here, puts us down where it can better serve Corcoran, can better move north, south, east, west, and still provide ample coverage to our urban density or our high density areas. You'll notice Station 7, which is the proposed site here, which is really close to where the Tachioka tribe is proposing to build that station now. So if we were to decide to move Station 4 away from this location, we would basically have two of our 5 fire stations that we may have issues with moving in the future already done for us. So that would put us well on our way to making some positive changes in our station locations and also in our response times and getting effective response forces on scene. The one thing about Station 4 right now is that it's close to Highway 43, and if we were to move it to the west, it would put us between Highway 43 and the high-speed rail overpass. And I can tell you with my professional opinion, that's not a piece of property that I would look at if you were to task me to go out and look for a site for a new fire station. Those two things right there would actually scare me away from that site. Part of the study also included what they call an anchor station, and the consideration that Station 5 is the anchor station because of its central locality within the county, I think is very, very important. Because that station should be the basis for where we look at how do we respond, how do we build, or how do we site, or how do we relocate other fire stations, within the county. So with that, or one of their recommendations was to move the ladder truck from the Station 4 site to more centrally located area centered within the urban density, the population that we serve, and put the ladder truck at Station 5. Well, Station 5 currently cannot house that ladder. There would need to be some improvements made there, bay sizes, those types of things. The station cannot handle 3-0 staffing, which is what comes with the ladder truck. So we'd have to make some improvements to the station itself, and then also to the engine bay to house the ladder truck. So I guess the direction I'm seeking from your board today is, do we continue to use Station 4's current site and move it to the west and put it between the high-speed rail overpass and Highway 43, or do we consider moving that station to the site that the Citygate study recommended, which is on South 10th Avenue, and then is your board interested, or do we move forward with relocating the ladder truck to Station 5 and improving that station to better serve our population and better serve our needs? So I'd be happy to answer any questions if anybody has any. I do have Dominic Tyberski and Chuck Kinney on the line also listening. If there's any questions that I cannot answer, because most of this work was done while I was retired. So I'm back to try to get your board some direction and seek direction from you and try to give you some information related to this. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Chief. So at this time, we'll bring it back for questions, comments from the board.
I have a couple questions. So, Chief Lynch?
Yes, sir.
On the proposed station from City Link.
City Gate. Mhm.
Do we have, if I'm mistaken, I hope I'm not mistaken, we have property on 10th Avenue and
The old Station 8.
Kent? Would that be property that could be utilized for that, moving that station?
That piece of property is relatively small compared to what we would need to build an adequate station today. It is farther south. I don't remember just exactly. It's on 10th Avenue, but I don't remember just exactly. And Supervisor Neves, you may help me here. Is it on Kent? 10th and Kent?
10th and, yeah, between Kent and Kansas.
Kansas? Okay.
Yeah. So it could, that piece of property is small. We would have to expand the size of that piece of property. And basically what what Citygate told me was just take this polygon, this green polygon that I'm circling my mouse around, and just move it north, south, east, west. And that's basically your effective response times. So if you were to move that down to here, you might create a gap, an opening in between, where our responsibility is over here on the eastern side of Hanford, all the way out, 198. You might create a gap by moving it too far south. We could look at that if that's something that the board would like to consider.
I think that area, it probably would work, but it is landlocked with development on both sides. So I'm not sure that it's certainly worth looking at, but I'm not sure that it's going to pencil
I'm
out.
not sure which property it is. I know
Correct.
where, but I'm not sure how it is. So
Correct. It's not very big.
we're going to build a station. We need to build it to spec.
To be a 50-year station.
Yeah, and I think that's the key point is we're looking at a 50 or 60-year facility. So Supervisor Neves is right. That is a small piece of property. You would have to figure out how to purchase some additional acreage to get that station built in that location.
And the next question I have is on the Armona Station, Station 5. We did a negotiation with High Speed Rail. That was part of should have been in the budget to allow the improvement to that station to house a ladder truck. Whether we use it for that or not, I don't know. I know with the new station that we're going to build, that the tribe is going to build us, it'd be nice to keep the ladder truck where they can use it, but it's also nice where we can use it in the community as well. So I would like to see our motivation improved to house a ladder truck for myself. I know we discussed it back in 16, 15, 16, 17, 18. So hopefully that's what we could do. That's all I got.
Yeah, and in my discussions with Mr. Taberski, Mr. Kinney, they did relay to me that there is funding. The project for Station 5 is included in the amount of monies that they receive from High Speed Rail for fire station improvements. So that project is there. I could not find any historical documents or anything where anything had been brought to the board and requested to move forward with those projects. So that's why I feel like I wanted to do it today and get direction from your board to move forward with this stuff.
Yeah, we discussed it a lot, but of course, time has passed.
Right.
We bid that out to get the stations built. I'm sure it's changed because everything increased so much over the last year. So got to be careful on what we ask for because we might not still afford it. So makes it tough. So thank you, Chief. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Further questions, comments from the board? I can't see Supervisor Valley. Supervisor, do you have any comments?
Thank you for asking, Mr. Chairman. No, I'm good on this one. I'm dependent on the professional opinion of the fire chief and the firefighters in those ranks here on how they're going to best serve the public. So I'm good with that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, CAO.
I do want to let the board know that in our proposed budget, we did budget for this project. We do have funding coming in from the High-Speed Rail Trust. I also want to note that when we did settle that lawsuit, that estimates were done at that time, a long time ago. Costs have risen, so we would, as part of this project, need to do new estimates and figure out what the funding will allow.
And I think the scope was quite a bit more aggressive with that thought at that point in time, right?
Yeah, the scope did include the Station 5 upgrades, and it also included a new station on the east side.
And if I could point something out, Mr. Chairman, one of the things that I've been discussing with Dominic is the fact that if we house the ladder truck at Station 5 and make those improvements, we don't have to build a substantial sized new fire station at Station 4. We could scale that project down to probably a 2-bay apparatus station, which would save considerable costs on moving forward with the construction of that station. So we felt like there was ample funding or revenues to actually do those projects.
All right, thank you for those comments.
Mr. Chair, and also, I think it'd be worth the effort to circle back around with high-speed rail. They've acquired a lot of land that I think some of it might be surplus now. And it would be interesting to see if we couldn't cohabitate on some land that may have been acquired by high-speed rail that they're currently not going to utilize. Because if we can stay close to that corridor, even though I don't want to be right on that footprint, there may be, it might be interesting to circle back around and check those maps and see if there's some land that they acquired that may be available that might be appropriate to house that station. I think 10th Avenue is a good location, but I personally, I would rather have it a little bit closer to 43, a little bit easier access. 10th Avenue pretty much dead ends at Kansas, and then you have to jog over, and that's not a really big thing, but in the fog, it's a really big thing. But if we could be a little bit closer to that 43 corridor, I would feel a little more comfortable. Even though I don't like the roundabouts, but I think it would be somewhat appropriate to just, again, circle back around with high-speed rail and just see if there's some excess land available.
And I feel the same way, Supervisor Nebbs, absolutely. We can do that with high-speed rail, see what they have. And I feel just like you do. I think the station maybe can slide south and to the east a little bit in order to better serve our needs. And that was confirmed with Citygate again after my discussions with them. So I will follow up with high-speed rail.
Yeah, and I haven't, and I apologize to Dominic, I haven't followed up with Dominic. I guess the roads into Tulare County have still pretty much maintained. I think we'll only have 6 or 7 accesses into Tulare County, and we do kind of respond into Tulare County from time to time. And I'd like to be on one of those arterials instead of a dead end road as well. So I used to know those, but I'm not really 100% sure of all the maps that the roads that are going to dead end or cul-de-sac due to high-speed rail impacts. And so I think maybe updating that map might be worth the effort as well.
Yeah, I agree. I do. I agree.
Okay. Further questions, comments? This is a study session, so there is no direction needed at this time. Other than that, and seeing no further comments, Chief, thank you for the presentation today, and look forward to some new stations and upgrades coming up.
Groundbreaking, correct. Thank you. Thank you very much for the chairman and members of the board. I appreciate the support.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, we had a public hearing scheduled for 10 o'clock. It's now 11, so perfect hour late. And sorry about that. It is that time. So this time we will move to public hearing with Public Works, and also included is County Council. So, Mr. Tyberski.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Dominic Tyberski with Public Works Department. I also have Cindy Cleaver here with County Council. And we are before your board this morning to request a public hearing regarding creation of Zone of Benefit 5 within Tract 756, also known as Armona North subdivision in the unincorporated community of Armona. The purpose of the Zone of Benefit is to create a parcel tax for each residential lot in order to provide funding for roadway maintenance. After the public hearing, if your board so chooses, I'm requesting adoption of the resolution, which will codify this change. Traditionally, a homeowners association would be created by the developer and residents to provide roadway maintenance, as the subdivision streets are not accepted into the county's maintained mileage. Because of previous difficulties inherent within that model, the county has moved towards creating a zone of benefit for each phase of development to ensure maintenance funding is provided. The tax will be collected by the assessor, and Public Works will hire a contractor to perform maintenance on those streets every 7 years. At this time, unless you have any questions, if your board agrees, I would request commencement of the public hearing.
Very good. Board?
Mr. Chair, I would just like to note for the record that the ordinance that was included, Ordinance 697 that was included with the public packet, has already been inadvertently executed. The ordinance could not be executed until after the public hearing and board action today. So assuming that the board does in fact approve the ordinance today, it will be re-executed. So before the public hearing, I wanted the public to be aware that the ordinance has not been previously approved.
All right, thank you for that clarification. So at this time, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Madam Clerk, is there any public request for comment?
I see no one with hand up and have not received any written correspondence.
Very good, thank you. So with lack of any required or requested comments, we'll go ahead and close public hearing and move back to the board for deliberations. Board, what's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, so when we, it sounds like we relieve the burden of the, off the developer for providing this, this street maintenance, and with this tax coming now from the county, how is that a benefit to the county if in fact we're relieving that financial burden from the developer, if I understand that right?
Yeah, I think it's just an ongoing process, and obviously this is my district, and we've had some challenges with road maintenance, and obviously the cost of road maintenance over time goes, up. And just to guarantee that, there's always going to be, solid roads, and the roads are going to be in adequate condition. There's just needed some sort of requirement. A builder builds the development and then he moves on, and the homeowners are left there. And I think this is just a process in which it guarantees that, they always have, well-maintained roads in their specific subdivision.
I know, thank you for that. And I know this is good work for your district here. The project, it's the infrastructure has curb, gutter, and sidewalk.
Yes, that's
correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, again, at this time, we have closed the public hearing and back to the board for action. Board, what's your pleasure?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the item. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Joe Nevs,
Yes.
Richard Valley,
Aye.
Doug Verboon,
Yes.
Craig Peterson,
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
Okay, we have 5 in favor, motion carries. We'll now move to
Thank you.
item 7B, which is again another public hearing from the Community Development Agency.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
This is Chuck Kinney with Kings County Community Development Agency. Come to you today because Aspire Homes California, Inc. is requesting to enter into a density bonus development agreement for Phase 5 of vesting tentative track 756 so that they can proceed with recording of the final map. The density bonus development agreement designates target units within the proposed map, which will be sold to income qualified individuals, which meet the requirements specified in the density bonus provisions and reasonable accommodations as listed within Article 22 of the Kings County Development Code. County Council has reviewed the resolution agreement and exhibit as to the form, and staff recommends that your board holds a public hearing. 2, adopts a resolution approving entering into a density bonus development agreement with Aspire Homes California, Inc. And 3, approve the density bonus agreement with Aspire Homes. Are there any questions?
Okay, thank you. At this time, questions from the board? Seeing none, we will at this time then move to the public hearing. And so we'll go ahead and open the public hearing at this time. And do we have any comments?
I see no one with hand up and have not received any written correspondence.
All right, very good. Thank you. So with a lack of any public comment, we will go ahead and close public hearing and bring it back to the board for deliberations. Board, which will. So we have a motion by Fagundes, second by Verboen. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Joe Nevs.
Yes.
Richard Valley.
Aye.
Doug Verboen.
Yes.
Craig Peterson.
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
Okay, we have 5 in favor, motion carries. And at this time, we will move now to board member announcements and comments. And Supervisor Verboen.
I'm still here and I will pass. Thank you.
I'm good also.
All right, thank you.
Man, it's been 2 weeks since we've been. Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple of things wrapped up the Lemoore High School baseball, softball season. This has been one of the more challenging seasons with COVID and scheduling and everything else, but we made it and all done. Thursday night market continues. American Legion continues to have Friday morning breakfast. King's Waste and Recycling had a special meeting to address some composting issues out there and working on that project. The Kings County Fire Department also worked with PG&E for that safety power shutoff program in case of severe weather. Even though we're not identified on a map, it may impact us. And so it was interesting to log on and watch that presentation. LAFCO meeting adopted the budget for the 21-22 fiscal year and ready to move forward. At the CART meeting, we adopted the budget for the upcoming fiscal year and approved some scheduling adjustments, as well as approved the Hanford recreation trips. With COVID going on, some of that public service stuff kind of went away. And with the summer camp attendees coming back online, CART and through Angie's work, we'll be able to work with that organization. That's a $10 million budget. 70% of it comes from feds, 17 comes from state and local, and about 11% is fare box ratio. And the remaining 2 or 3% comes from ads and sales at CART. So they're ready to move forward and looking forward to the next fiscal year. KCAG, we also received updates from Amtrak. Amtrak San Joaquin's have also struggled with the COVID problems and ridership, and continue to watch the governor's transportation budget for the upcoming fiscal year, and also reviewed the 2021 population and housing estimates, and wished Mary Madrid, who was the fiscal person for CART, a happy retirement as she has changed and moved into that chapter of life of retirement. Downtown Lemoore had music and open house on May 28th, which was very well attended, and a lot of people out there enjoying the music from 4 High.
That sounds good for Lemoore.
Exactly. So yeah, it was good music, good times. All of the businesses were active, and it was nice to see some return of normalcy. The American Legion Post 100, as well as the Lemoore Fleet Reserve, had a Memorial Day ceremony at the Lemoore Cemetery. Again, very well received and had a nice ceremony for there. Was able to attend the graduation and sober grad events at Lemoore High. Even though we didn't physically go into the graduation, we were able to hear it from our vantage point, and nice to see that 120th class of Lemoore High graduate and move on to their next
How many years since you graduated?
Exactly, yeah, 1901. Meanwhile, back at the California State Controller's Office meeting, we had our quarterly meeting last Friday and talked about a variety of things, as you can imagine, cannabis and transit occupancy manuals and guidance on some cleanup of the voter initiative Prop 19 that was passed, but it would be very difficult to execute. And all of the wildfires asking for extensions. Many of those have 3 and 5 year extensions and building cost and everything, trying to get everything back together. Zoning, building codes have all changed, so trying to extend that a little bit more. And then all of the concerns about the Airbnbs and some of the Expedia, some of the vacation type structures that are located in areas not zoned for that kind of operation, and how you deal with that, and continue to work with some manuals and try to come up with a more coordinated effort statewide on how to evaluate and tax those type of operations. And the food truck takeover continues at downtown Hanford, and it was again pretty well received. And then the Pops concert was also at Hanford Civic on Sunday. And you know, with social distancing, it's hard to figure out what the crowd was, but it looked like 400 or 500 people there, maybe a little bit more. It was a nice crowd, nice evening, and it was good to see the King Symphony Orchestra back in business. So with that, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Supervisor Bowden.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'll be quick. I just wanted also for going back to the topic of Memorial Day, you know, over the last couple of years, the Corcoran Cemetery has had some challenges and a lot of complaints as it relates to the appearance of the cemetery. So anytime you get a lot of people out there, and in this case for people visiting their loved ones on Memorial Day, it just spawned a lot more of the volume of the complaints. And so I know our board appoints the members of the cemetery districts, their board of directors. Beyond that, I'm not sure what kind of jurisdiction our board has, if any, but I would like to get information on how, as a District 2 rep, I could be more accountable to the folks who have loved ones there in the Corcoran Cemetery. To the positive, I do know that the board just hired a new manager out there. And so going into Memorial Day, some of the veterans and community leaders, we went out and we placed U.S. flags on the graves of the veterans resting there. And so having an opportunity to walk down all the aisles of the cemetery and seeing, in some case, some progress, but still seeing a lot of dry grass and a lot of weeds, broken headstones. I know that cemetery used to look like a golf course, and so we could and should do better. And so whatever our accountability is in those areas, Mr. Chairman, I'd like some help from staff. They please reach out, and the appropriate staff to reach out and let me know what kind of efforts, if any, our board can do on that. And again, I just want to close by thanking Mr. Gatska for his service once again, for Surgeon General coming to the city of Corcoran. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Supervisor. And just real quickly with respect to Memorial Day, and last week, June 3rd, my son graduated from United States Air Force basic training. He graduated top 50 out of 800. So really proud of him. And
After his mother.
yeah, hey, whatever.
Is he a pilot? Is he going to be a pilot, Mr. Chairman?
No, it'd be something other than a pilot. His eyes won't allow him to do that. But yep. So he'll get to make his choice where he wants to. But anyways, with that, that's all I have, and so we'll turn it over to Becca for upcoming events and board correspondence.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In board correspondence, there is a notice of availability offer to sell surplus property in the city of Hanford. Upcoming meetings and events from the California Water Board. There is a meeting notice and an agenda for their Thursday, June 17th, 2021 at 9 a.m. via Zoom meeting. Also, we will work on that budget hearing date and get back to your board on that one. Upcoming agenda items, the COVID-19 update for next week from Administration and Public Health. We'll also have the Senate Bill 81 Round 2 Juvenile Center Remodel Project, a budget resolution regarding that project. From Behavioral Health, we'll have an agreement with Judge Rottenberg Education Center for residential treatment program services, an agreement with Aegis Treatment Centers Limited Liability Company for outpatient narcotic treatment program services, an amendment to an agreement with Kings Community Commission on Aging for senior access to engagement program services, an agreement with Kingsview for narcotic treatment program services. We will also have the Mental Health Services Act annual update, and they will also bring the agreement for patients' right advocacy back to the board next week. From Community Development Agency, a monthly report on the Planning Commission's actions. From Elections, Second Amendment to the Dominion Voting System agreement. From Health Department, a fiscal year 2021 professional services contract for the Department of Public Health. Also from HSA, Human Services Agency, an agreement with Shared Vision Consultants for consulting and facilitation services. From Information Technology, a maintenance agreement for Cherry Road for PeopleSoft support. From Public Works next week, we'll have a Parks fee waiver update. 2 weeks from now, we will have the updated SB 81 juvenile contract for construction, also the defense of the accused contracts, annual renewal. And from the Ag Commissioner, an agreement with the California Department of Food and Ag for certified farmers market inspection activities. And we have a bunch more. From Behavioral Health, we'll have an agreement with Bay Area Addiction Research and Treatment Program for narcotic treatment program services. From Behavioral Health, an agreement with JCT Consultants to provide therapeutic behavioral services. And also an agreement with Mental Health Systems for assertive community treatment full service partnership services. From Human Services Agency, a family self-sufficiency demonstration development grant. From Information Technology, an annual maintenance agreement for Microsoft Windows operating system and Office Suite software. And 2 weeks from now, Public Works will bring a resolution approving the California High-Speed Rail Improvement Plan. So lots of items coming before your board in the next 2 weeks. Thank you. And also, I wanted to remind the board that on June 22nd will be the American Rescue Plan Act study session.
Good, thank you. The update. Okay, let's see, at this time we've reached the end of our agenda, and we do have closed session on the item. I think we'll move first to the California Public Finance Authority regular meeting scheduled for 11 o'clock. But with respect to closed session today, we have it's like multiple matters, significant exposure to litigation, 2 cases, Government Code Section 54956.9 D2, personnel matter, Government Code Section 54957, public employee appointment, county administrative officer, personnel matter, Government Code 54957, public employee appointment, community development agency. Also conference with labor negotiator, meet and confer, Government Code Section 54957.6. We'll have our negotiators in the room with us, and the multiple union and other reps that will be discussing CLOSIA General Closia, Supervisors, Blue Collar Probation Officers Association, Management Firefighters Association, Detention Deputies Association, Prosecutors Association, Deputy Sheriff's Association, and unrepresented management. Madam Council, do you expect any reporting out today?
We do not, Mr. Chair.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So at this time, we will adjourn our regular scheduled meeting and move to the California Public Finance Authority and then reconvene with the closed session. Thank you all for joining. Meeting adjourned.
Are we staying on this string for the PFA?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, this time we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order, the California Public Finance Authority, regularly scheduled meeting. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Joe Nevs,
Here.
Richard Valley. Richard Valley. Doug Verboon,
Yes.
Craig
Here.
Peterson,
Here.
Richard Fagundes.
Here. Okay, we have 4 and I believe 5 just may not have his speaker on at this time. Okay, on to item 2, which is approval of the minutes of the last meeting, which was on May 25th, 2021.
So moved.
Nev seconds.
Okay, we have a motion by Verboen, second by Nevs. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Joe Nevs,
Yes.
Richard Valley,
Aye.
Doug Verboon,
Yes.
Craig Peterson,
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Okay, we have 5 in favor, and also the minutes show that Supervisor Valley is with us on the meeting. So now we'll move to item 3, which is a consent calendar. Board, what's your pleasure?
Move is presented, Your Honor.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and second. Madam Clerk, please call roll.
Joe Nevs,
Yes.
Richard Valley,
Aye.
Doug Verboon,
Yes.
Craig Peterson,
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Okay, we have 5 in favor. Motion carries. We'll move now to item 4, which is public comment. Any person may directly address the board at this time on any item of the agenda or any other items of interest to the public that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. Do we have any public comment?
I see no one with hand up and have not received any written correspondence.
Thank you. We'll move now to item 5, which is staff updates. And Caitlin, we see you there. Do we have anything today?
I have no staff updates today.
All right, thank you very much. That means we've reached item 6, which is adjournment. And are there any other items to come before the board at this time? Seeing none, meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we switch over to closed session.